Hey, that's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 37, on Saturday, February 27, 2016. I am Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined as always by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin in the Luxurious Griffin Inn and Suites.
Now, we're coming at you from a hotel, y'all. We hope it comes across as good as it would if we were in our luxurious studio in Brookhaven, Atlanta.
Well, that's what we hope. And, this place had one of the rooms has a hot tub it's in a heart shape. And I almost got us that room, but I decided on the double bed instead. So.
Well, thankfully, Rusty decided not to do that because you would have seen some kind of selfie with us both in that damn heart shape.
Oh, yeah, with flower petals and everything else.
Would have upset everyone.
What you drinking on today, man?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I just poured myself a very delicious hotel wild turkey and tonic.
That looks very delicious. And I know it's not Darlington.
What are you drinking?
I know it's not Darlington, but I am throwing back, Bubba. I have got a natural light tall boy here.
Oh,
and
man,
it has been
awesome.
a long time since I drank Natty. And so it tastes like college.
Well, hey, college tasted pretty good back then.
We drank some stuff in college like that. Scary thought, the hot tub thing we're hearing on the Periscope.
I hear you.
Yes, indeed. So
so cheers everybody that's
that.
following on the Periscope. They're not going to get to see the wonderfulness of us hovering around this tabletop microphone.
Yeah, we've got the mobile podcast unit going on, so I was able to kind of yank the microphone, the pro mic that we use, and one of the ones that we use, and throw it into the USB port instead. It's working all pretty well. The beer makes me sad we're seeing on Periscope. Oh, man. Sorry.
Well, you know what?
Sometimes you come here with luxurious, and sometimes you're in the luxurious Griffin Inn and Suites. So what we're going to try to do today, bring you sort of a quick-fire podcast.
Yeah, we're going to do the rapid-fire thing.
Right, one topic right after the other. And let's just go ahead and start.
Just get right into it.
One of the big things this week that we saw come through was the Hall of Fame nominations. And,
we did.
Yep,
That's right.
Yep.
I didn't pay nearly enough attention as I should have.
We've got more bigger news that kind of eclipsed it coming a little bit later. But people on Twitter and people on social media talking about what does it take to get into the Hall of Fame in NASCAR, and what should it take to get into the Hall of Fame in NASCAR. And I think that's an interesting topic that you and I have talked about individually before. We haven't talked about it on a podcast, I don't think. But what makes something Hall of Fame worthy? And I'll tell you what makes somebody Hall of Fame worthy is somebody who came in and changed the sport in some way or another. And that may not include all past champions. It may not include, just a certain type of people. But for the most part, for me, it's somebody who came in and sort of changed your view of the sport, maybe even momentarily or something. So that's why somebody like Jeff Gordon obviously will be in there. Jimmy Johnson, unless something happens, crazy with him, but Jimmy Johnson will be in there. And then these old guys we hear about, Dale Earnhardt and other folks. But somebody who really changed, and so if we talk about like Dale Jr., people talk about Dale Jr. Well, he hasn't had a championship. Does he belong in there? But look at how much he has changed the sport in terms of fandom, and Sherwin's making all kinds of faces right now. So for me, that's what makes something Hall of Fame worthy, and why I think we need to be careful about the number of people we're letting into the Hall of Fame, and it doesn't become just a champions circle, but more like I said, a reflection of who has changed the sport for the better.
Well, I got into an argument on Twitter with Roger Diamond. I can't remember his Twitter handle. He's somebody I actually like quite a bit. I like to interact with, and he was saying that Jeff Gordon should be an instant inductee, an instant inductee, and I said, but the sport would benefit so much better if we waited 4 or 5 years and then we put Jeff in. Like Jeff is an automatic. Like Jeff is so.
Well, there's nothing. It's not like he's, hats off and cross fingers and knock on wood. He's not on his deathbed or anything. It's not like there's any hurry to get him in.
Right. There's no rush.
And so, yeah, I agree with you. Let him come in at the regular pace, the regular leisure, and there's going to be a lot of fanfare for that. And give him kind of a second, I guess, big parade, if you will.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any rush to get people into the Hall of Fame. I think one of the biggest, not misses, I wouldn't say misses, but NASCAR has, now that they've invoked the Hall of Fame, I guess we're working on about 4 years now, they're trying to figure out how they go about inducting inductees, how they get the legend of the sport into the Hall of Fame, and let's appreciate them in the museum. But there's no reason to instantly induct people. Like, I mean, baseball doesn't do it, football doesn't do it.
Right.
And those are the sports that we pay a lot of attention to when it comes to Hall of Fame. But there's no reason to put Jeff in next year.
No,
you actually, like, you're not capitalizing on what you could get out of putting him in if you do it too soon. Like, let's wait 4 or 5 years. Like, we're waiting. You and I are waiting for Chipper Jones.
Yep.
Like, everybody knows Chipper Jones is a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
First ballot Hall of Famer. Like, but it's going to be so much more fun to wait 2 more years when he's
to have that
actually
anticipation
going to get voted on and put in. Like, it makes more sense to do it that way. That way the sport can capitalize on what the individual accomplishments were.
Yep. You're getting some props on Periscope there for Chipper. Absolutely. So let's just keep going rapid fire here. The reason we're in the luxurious, by the way.
Luxurious.
Griffin Inn and
Extremely
Suites.
luxurious.
We're over here near the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We were there earlier today. We met some folks. We talked with a bunch of people. We walked around. We obviously watched the doubleheader race, which was really cool. And one of the first things we did was go sort of to a meet and greet and a autograph session. If you're on the Periscope, you can see my number 6 hat right here, and met with Bubba Wallace.
Oh,
and
yeah,
let's see.
Super cool.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy, real cool. And obviously I share a last name with this fella, so I told him that too, and he was laughing. Posted a selfie on Twitter.
I took a couple of pictures you'll like later.
Yes, I'm excited to see those. But we ended up doing that, and it was real cool just to meet him and get the autograph and all that and shake his hand and everything. So props to Bubba for coming out for everybody. I think the big news for us, though, is what Sherwin had set up beforehand.
What we did after that.
What we did right after that. Immediately from walking to Bubba. Now, this is a pregame engineer, tailgate mayor podcast. So, whatever we do, however important it is, there's one thing we're going to do, and we're going to drink some beer beforehand.
Always drinking beer.
Always drinking beer beforehand.
Yeah.
So, as we were walking over to our next destination, we were finishing off a couple beers.
Well, I was finishing off a Goose Island IPA, which we gave a shout out on the Twitter, and I think I also had a Busch Copper Lager or something like that.
We
just
said
to
it.
Celebrate NASCAR.
Yep, we said it on the last podcast. It'd be the first time and maybe last time I ever buy Busch beer.
Right.
But bought Busch beer and had a good time with that. But we were drinking that, and Sherwin somehow miraculously got us 20 minutes with Ed Clark, the president of Atlanta Motor Speedway. And sure enough, so here's a funny story. We walked into the wrong building.
Oh, that's
to start
right. We
with.
walked into the
the
condo
yeah,
building.
to the condo building.
It's got 2 buildings. It's got the front. It's got the place where the people stay or they go watch the race or whatever they're doing. Like, you got to show a ticket to get past the guy at the desk. And then there's, like, the front office place.
Right.
And we went to the wrong one.
We went to the wrong one. And there was a fellow there checking tickets and everything. He said, "What can I do for you, boys?" And Sherwin says, and I've got my hat on. We're decked out in NASCAR stuff. And Sherwin says, "Well, we got a meeting with Ed Clark at 11." And the face that this guy gives calls total horse hockey on us.
Hell are you people?
He's calling.
Y'all don't.
No, you don't.
You don't. You do not have a meeting with the most important person that I'm aware of.
I told Sherwin, I said, this fellow's thinking, I can't even get a meeting with Ed Clark.
Oh, he couldn't.
You've
There's
got
no
a meeting
way.
with him on
There's
race
no
day?
way. No.
But sure enough, so we walked next door, talked to to the receptionist down there, great gal talking to us, and she said, "Oh, sure, I'll call him." And she calls him, and she says, "Oh, yeah, he's expecting you. He'll be down in just a couple minutes." And sure enough, he came down, sat with us. We didn't get a chance, really. There wasn't a great opportunity for us to sit there and do a little interview.
Yeah, we
type
couldn't
of thing.
do an interview.
But we talked with him for a bit about the things that we've also said on Twitter before and that we've said on the podcast before. And he's a great guy. He's very open to hear that sort of stuff. He knows what sort of issues there are at Atlanta Motor Speedway right now with the date, with the attendance, that sort of stuff. And he's very open and wants to know what the fans are thinking.
Yeah, well, it was really cool to meet him. I spoke with him on the phone like you heard, I think, back in episode like 33 or something. He's super cool, dude. He understands exactly what our points of contention are about the date and why this date doesn't make sense for us to do the things that we want to do at a racetrack is to camp and just enjoy the whole weekend and all that stuff. And he's a race fan himself. He's been in the race business for 40 years. It was really cool to talk to him, and it was really cool of him to take some time to talk to us.
Again, on race day at 11 a.m., not like it's 7 a.m. when everybody's asleep. I mean, it seems like he ought to have other stuff going on, and he carved out 20 minutes to talk to us.
Yeah, well, tell him about the phone call that you...
So, yeah, this was funny. So he came down, shook our hands, said hey, and then got a phone call. And for whatever reason, I wasn't trying to spy on him or nothing, but out of the corner of my eye, I see his phone and see what it says on it. And he picks up the phone and says, hey, Jeff. And sure enough, right before he said, hey, Jeff, I caught a glimpse of his phone, and it was Jeff Burton that was calling him on the phone.
I was thinking it might have been Jeff Gordon, so I was trying to listen, but had I put my appropriate ears on, I probably would have heard Jeff Burton's voice too. Like, yeah, so dude takes a call from Jeff Burton right before he sits down on the couch to talk to us.
Yeah, that was really cool of him, and can't say enough positive about him at this point, especially among all the criticism that we've, or maybe I'll say the positive reinforcement that we've given Atlanta Motor Speedway, and maybe sometimes even negative stuff. But real cool to sit down with him and hear what he has to say, and it keeps me encouraged about Atlanta in the future, really.
Well, the way it changes your mind is like you can build up this really negative pile of vitriol about a particular situation, and for us, that's Atlanta Motor Speedway's date in February, and one of the things, just talking to him on the phone was able to spin that to the point where you're like, you know what, I don't want to hurt this entity. I want to try to help them. So we've been very positive on Twitter, and where I, previously was quite negative, and that's why we ended up having the chance to speak with him, is because I was an a-hole on Twitter, and Atlanta Motor Speedway Twitter handle reached out to me, and I got to talk to him, and then we got to meet him in person. So nothing but positive things to say about the way they're doing stuff, and we know that they would prefer a different date, but they have to operate within the constraints that they're presented, and they're doing the best they can.
Well, we gotta thank all of the listeners and everybody else, because all we do, y'all, is just sit here and talk about NASCAR in front of a microphone. And all we've done before that was talk about NASCAR between the two of us, and we said, well, why don't we just start recording this and upload it to the internet? People start listening to it, and all of a sudden we get some exposure to go talk to these folks. And like I said, within a 15-minute span, I had shaken hands with both Darrell Wallace Jr. and Ed Clark.
Yeah, how cool is that? And that's a testament to NASCAR. And if NASCAR folks haven't understood that, they should. And there's a lot of people that only follow NASCAR and aren't involved with other sports. There is no more exposure you're going to get in any other professional sport than NASCAR. Like, if you want access to the thing that you like, NASCAR provides that better than any other sport, without a doubt.
Absolutely. So, next thing we did, we were going into the track, and I noticed that all the AMS folks are we're looking on Periscope here, seeing
dirt racing.
Dirt racing.
Yeah, we'd love to talk more about dirt racing, but we got to
got a
get this show in here.
We noticed all the AMS folks were wearing buttons that said "Welcome Y'all" on it.
Oh, yeah, the guy that was checking our coolers.
Yep.
And it was like, hey, that's the way we open our show. You said it first. And so the guy that was checking me in, I was like, I'd like to get one of your buttons, where do I get one of those? Because it says, welcome, y'all.
Welcome, y'all.
It's just the way Rusty always opens the show. And he's like, well, I'd like to give you my button if you want it. And I said, I'll gladly take your button if you're happy to give it to me. And so he gave me his button. And so I can show it to the...
Yeah, props to Anthony with Argus. Argus is like event specialist folks. And
Anthony with Argus.
Anthony gave us his Welcome Y'all button, and we're going to feature it on the podcast
right
going
here.
Forward. It looks great. It might be
Welcome Y'all button. I know we're a little bit dark right now. We're not very well backlit, but got a nice button here. We're going to feature it on future shows on our drop down. Where you've seen PETM in the past, hanging off the
little towel we got there.
Little towel.
So next thing that happened, let's keep quick firing here, man.
Yeah, quick fire.
Next thing that happened, we go in, we watch this Xfinity race, and I didn't know it until they actually said it over the intercom. Somebody was winning some prizes for naming it, but that Kyle Busch had never won at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
I didn't realize that either.
Yep.
I didn't.
I should say in the Xfinity series.
Yeah.
In
the Xfinity series, I didn't realize that Kyle had never won the Xfinity series, so they were talking that up, and that was a big part of it.
And unsurprisingly, I mean, y'all, when Kyle Busch shows up to a track, it feels like in the Xfinity series or in the Truck series, and he's determined that I need to win this week. He's just going to go ahead and win.
Well, and the car setups or the rules package was certainly set up for him.
Sure.
And not just him, but anybody that loves to hang the right rear out. But they were softer tire, a little bit less aero, running really fast and greasy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a day race, so like they were, the track is as hot as it's going to be, all that stuff, just good stuff.
Yep. And so, he took the win. He got his first Xfinity Series win at Atlanta. Old Bubba Wallace, we were listening to him on the deal. I poked fun at the right front tire, old Evan Stark, telling him, "Hey, where were you on that one?"
Tire.
So Bubba blew a right front tire.
Yeah, 3/4 through the race, Bubba had a right front go down. So we gave some crap to Evan on the tweeter, and it wasn't his fault, of course, but it's his Twitter handle, so why not?
Right. So, what's the next thing? Let's see, the trucks. So after that, we had the truck race, and truck racing at Atlanta, y'all. Oh man, truck racing in Atlanta is something else. The drama too that was going on because we had Matt Crafton up front. Then he got pile drived by
Christopher Bell.
Christopher Bell had pile drive.
Huge mistake coming out of turn 2.
Yep.
Took out 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Yeah. Leader, co-leader, and himself, and
didn't take himself out because then he was leading laps after that, and, we were bummed. It was like, I can't believe this fellow's fixing to win this race. After he had just...
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, after he had just messed these people up. And then guess what he had to go down? A right front tire.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had the old green-white checker. We went overtime. We had a couple of those shot clock deals.
We did. And I was sitting there going, you know what? I like this shot clock.
They didn't suck.
It was okay.
You know what? We weren't hunting for a napkin to cause a debris caution.
So the first real test of the shot clock or the caution clock, whatever we're calling it, I thought it was all right. I was okay with it because they were getting spread out a little bit. It was about time for a caution to get thrown, and instead of throwing one like you said for a napkin or a beer can or water bottle that the guys throw out the window all the time,
the competitors throw out the window.
Right. This was actually it worked. So I look forward to it working more.
I think, I mean, we were contentious when we first heard about the rule, and then we heard competitors talk about how you might be able to strategize ahead of it and maybe do your green flag stop and come out in the lead after the caution clock. It looked like to me they did exactly what they wanted it to do, and people knew when the caution was going to come instead of the BS. Napkin caution,
right? And there wasn't that sandbagging or whatever you want to call it, where people were trying to get all over pit lane beforehand or anything. They kind of learned the lesson from last week. And
it wasn't like 75 people were trying to get on a pit lane and nobody
Right.
knew how to hit the brakes the right way. Yeah.
Right. So ended up, after Christopher Bell's right front tire blew, it opened the door for independent team, self-owned and funded John Hunter Nemechek to take the checkered. Real neat.
Cool. He won a race last year. I can't remember if it was like Iowa or somewhere. It was a short track, I think. Maybe it was Phoenix. And y'all can cuss us out on the Twitter or the Periscope and let us know which one it actually was. But John Hunter winning was so cool. Yeah, I mean, it's so neat to see exactly what people have been bitching about this charter system in the Cup. Is like, well, these, there no new team's ever going to be able to compete. And, and well, that's because in the Cup, that's not where they belong. If they want to compete as an independent, Truck Series or the Xfinity Series is the place they need to be. And John Hunter has proven now twice that he deserves an opportunity to be in a fully funded car.
Absolutely. He's a wheelman. And somebody else that pulled their weight this race, how about Rico Abreu coming across P11? He was in top 10 all day. We were listening to him the whole time. He was fun as hell to watch.
Loved it. He was giving his team great feedback. That was so much fun to watch or listen to and watch. Rico that's the important part of this sport is when guys are willing to leave the thing that they do the best and come to the sport that we love the most, which is stock racing, stock car, stock truck racing, and they have success doing it, especially at places that are extremely challenging like Atlanta. Holy cow. New tire, new aero package, craziness.
And the number of times that he had a restart and he was just all over he was just sawing that wheel like we've talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
And made it work.
He did a great job. In his first race at Atlanta, he finished 11th. So
and he was
good
excited.
on you, Rico.
He was excited as hell. He got on the thing and told his team how good a job they did, how happy he was and everything. So very cool on that. Let's talk about the biggest news this week, though, that even eclipsed the Hall of Famer announcements, and that is here's what's surprising to me, and what it was Stewart-Haas Racing going to Ford next year.
Oh, my goodness.
The surprising thing to me was how surprising this was. We've talked about it before on the podcast. Like I said, I say this all the time, that we've talked about it before on the podcast, but we have, that there are no secrets in NASCAR anymore.
Right.
And if somebody's even sniffing, if somebody at SHR even drives a Ford to work one day, it makes the news.
Yep.
So for this to go completely unexpected and out of the blue, this announcement, I thought that was the most surprising part, was how surprising this was, that they've made this announcement. And I heard people talking on Twitter, well, I can't believe they announced it so early in the season. Well, I guess a reason that they would do that is that they know that it's going to be public soon enough, because you can't keep secrets very long in NASCAR.
Well, and I think you heard Tony say that he was surprised that it stayed a secret this long. And one of the reasons why they went ahead and announced it last week is that there's no reason that keeping secrets isn't fun, and it's better for all companies involved if you just go ahead and announce it, say this is what we're doing.
Right.
And we're not going to talk about it anymore until next year, which to me is kind of funny. But I respect the fact that they're willing to say, look, we've been talking to Ford. We're going to Ford. We're not going to talk about it anymore because this year we're racing Chevys.
Right.
It's different than stick and ball, y'all. Just you got to get over the fact that it's not stick and ball. All right. Every car is individually sponsored. Every team is individually sponsored, and the manufacturer aspect plays a huge role. And what Tony Stewart and Gene Haas just did is they moved themselves from Chevy number 3 to Ford number 1.
Absolutely. And Kenny Smith on here just told us that you can't hide any secrets because of social media, and you're exactly right, because of the...
That's because of jerks like us on Periscope. I mean, we're doing it right now.
Right, but he's right. Back in the day when there wasn't social media, the it would take a lot longer for even rumors to spread. But now with Twitter, especially with Twitter,
I mean, 5 years ago, you could have kept this kind of secret for a whole year.
Yep. So what does that mean? Well, I was surprised, secondly, of the amount of vitriol that we saw on Twitter from fans of Stewart Haas, just cussing him out for abandoning, if you will, Chevrolet and going to Ford. I thought that was surprising to me that people have that much passion for a manufacturer.
Well, I may have sprayed a little bit of vitriol myself because I thought it was funny that, one of the big reasons why Tony moved on from JGR at the time, what they said was that he didn't like the Toyota transfer and like he needed to be partnered with Chevrolet. The reality is that wasn't it. Tony just wanted to do his own thing. He was tired of Joe Gibbs putting rules over his head about you can't race this, you can't race that. Now, maybe those were appropriate restrictions considering where Tony's at now. But, I mean, you can't tell a guy how to live his life, especially somebody like Tony who's won championship and says, I want to do things my way, and this is the way I'm going to do it. I think the biggest amount of venom was related to Kevin Harvick and going to Ford, because Harvick has always been a Chevrolet, and, like, he's born of the Dale Earnhardt fold, the Richard Childress. I've replaced Dale Earnhardt. I won within, 2 races of Dale Earnhardt's debt. Like, those fans are like, oh my God, wait, Kevin Harvick's going to race a Ford and I have to figure out how to deal with that?
Yeah. And I think what I told you too, I guess as Casey Kane fans, we don't have a whole lot of passion for a single manufacturer due to the fact that he raced all of them within 4 years.
Right. I saw all kinds of stuff about how Kurt Busch had raced a Ford, a Chevy, and I guess he raced, Kyle's Toyota, and then, now he's at a Chevrolet, and, I guess he raced, he went Dodge, Ford, Toyota, Chevy, back to back to back to back. And somebody reached out to us on Twitter and said, yeah, and he won in them all. Well, I had to back off a little bit. I said, that 2010 year in the Richard Petty Ford, he didn't win, but he won in the Dodge, he won in the Toyota, and he's been winning in the Chevy. So, people miss out on that because Casey's so freaking quiet.
Right. And actually, Ed Clark had a good story for us about the first time he met Casey when we talked to him earlier.
Oh, yeah.
He said he kind of gave him a dead fish handshake, and it was...
this guy's never going to do anything.
Next thing you know, 6 races, and I've shaken his hand in the last couple of years, and I can tell you it has improved.
That's right.
So let's move on to Supercross in Atlanta. So that's kind of cool. Something that happened last year, happening again this year. Just happened, matter of fact. They just finished it up. They did the
actually, it's probably still going.
No, they just did the 450. This is on.
Okay.
Drag
so
racing
it's
now.
over.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So
normally when I record it on the Diver, it goes to about 12:30. But
gotcha.
Supercross is a lot of fun, and it has a lot of crossover with NASCAR fans. Unfortunately, the way the weekends have fallen out, that it's in the Georgia, or was in the Georgia Dome tonight, which makes it tough. We're down in Griffin. We can't be there because we're ready to support NASCAR tomorrow.
And a lot of drivers were there, just because they.
I'm sure they were
goofing off, need something to do.
Well, Joe Gibbs is one of the strongest teams in Supercross, so I'm sure the guys on his team that like the sport were there.
So I'd like to give a shout out real quick. Scott Jones, which is at WSJ42081, or 42081, I should say, on Twitter. He had we had parked and everything. I think we had already gone and talked to Ed Clark. We come back. And we were eating some lunch, and he tweeted to us and said, "Hey boys, where y'all at?" And he posted a picture. And I'm telling you, that picture must have been 10 feet from our parking spot.
It felt like it. It made it easy for us to connect with him.
So big time props to Scott Jones. He came over. His whole family was there. His wife, 3 daughters. I mean, just a happy, fun-looking family. They were ready for some racing. We got to meet them. That was really cool to actually meet somebody who's listening to the podcast and stuff and that we've interacted with on Twitter. So,
yeah, we wouldn't
real
have,
neat.
yeah, without the podcast, we wouldn't have otherwise known who Scott Jones is. And so it was great to get to meet him, and hopefully we'll get to run into him tomorrow as well.
Sure.
But it was great to see him and his kids going to enjoy NASCAR racing. So he's obviously fostering a fandom within his own family, which is very cool.
Yeah, very cool. And one of his daughters is named Casey. This was a cool story.
Yeah.
His daughter is named Casey because she was born in '06, and they came to the rained-out race in Atlanta, and he told his pregnant wife at the time, 8 months pregnant, he said, if Casey Kane wins this race, let's just call her Casey.
That's right.
And
That's
Casey
right.
Kane wins the race. They end up naming her Casey, Kasey. And here we are. I guess she's, 9 years old now, or 10 years old going on.
Just turned
Yep.
10 or 11.
Yep. And
however that math works out.
Yeah. She said, I'm rooting for Casey Kane. And sure enough, we're sitting there at my truck, and I point her and I say, you see right over there, just below the PETM sticker, is that Casey Kane number 5 sticker. So we're with you, honey. We appreciate you. Love it that she's becoming a fan like you said.
Well, I thought it was really cool when we got to sort of connect on the fact that we were at the racetrack for that race. Matter of fact, we played like 16 rounds of hearts or spades or something in the tent there.
Yeah.
And just finally decided that we weren't going to be able to wait out that rain out, and they ran it on that Monday. And I remember being at work. I was working at a sporting goods store, still finishing up college. I'm making, team shirts. I'm putting names and numbers on back of shirts, listening on the radio, with a ticket burning a hole in my back pocket as Casey drops from 1st to 10th and then goes back to 1st after he manages tires. Everybody are better than everybody else,
yep,
like we've been talking about.
Yep.
So. Yeah, that was a cool experience. I thank Scott for stopping by. Hopefully we'll see him tomorrow too.
Really looking forward to the race tomorrow. Really looking forward to it based on what we've seen in practice, especially what we've seen in qualifying.
Wow, that was neat. Holy cow, were they loose.
All over the place between the aero package, between the tires and everything. And something you keep saying is that, it's going to be 70 degrees tomorrow, which will be the hottest it's been all weekend.
It's going to be slick as owl poop out there.
So, those tire pressures are going to be up. It's going to be slick. It's just going to be a dirt track on pavement.
Closest thing to it.
Closest
thing to it.
So looking forward to that, which brings us to our picks. I don't remember. So I picked Joey Logano last week. Who'd you pick? I don't even remember.
Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney, okay. So I think Joey finished ahead of Ryan.
I think so.
So that means
I think Ryan finished about in the.
What was our rule last
teens.
year? I think you get to go first if you won, quote unquote won, right? I think that's how it was.
Something like that.
That. So I'm picking first. Here we go.
Right.
My pick, and I'm doing it. I'm the first to do it this year. Me and you are prone to pick him. But Casey Kane ran great in practice. He didn't qualify as great, but, I mean, this is his type of racing right here, which is that slick stuff we're talking about. I'm wearing a Casey Kane shirt. You got the Casey Kane hat on. I'm picking Casey Kane coming across the stripe first tomorrow.
I love it. I'm obviously, we're huge fans. So
any chance I get to pick Casey, I'm very happy to do so, but I truly believe.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm going to pick the butthole that tried to do an entire lap around Atlanta Motor Speedway in reverse, driving the Miller Lite Dodge at the time. I'm going with Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch he's been one of the people.
He's on the pole now, thanks to Kyle failing post-qualifying inspection.
And I started in our league. I started Kurt Busch as well. I started Casey and I started Kurt.
Nice.
Because of that exactly. And we've seen Kurt run out front and almost lap the field. There was like 8 cars on the lead lap one time when he won.
The one he won.
The one he won at Atlanta.
That was probably 09, I want to say.
Something like that.
And when he's still racing for Penske in the Miller Lite Dodge, the number 2 car. Yeah, he that was actually a pretty ugly race
Yeah,
in a lot of ways
it
because
wasn't-
of how gone he was.
Yeah, it wasn't that great, but looking forward to a much better race tomorrow. I think we're going to have it too, so excited about that. Sherwin, what else?
I don't know. Indy cars were testing at Phoenix this weekend. One of the guys that we've interacted with before, Mike Ellis, was going to watch practice over there.
Oh, cool.
And I saw a couple of Twitter videos of cars just whizzing around that track. Man, they just hum. So Indy cars firing up. They're starting to get their thing going. And we got our thing going. This is what we love. We got stock cars at Atlanta. It doesn't. Just so happy. We got to speak to it. Ed,
Yep.
We're going to watch cars race really fast tomorrow. The weather's supposed to be great. So that's very cool.
Well, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the quick fire version of this.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't drag it out
from
too
the
much.
luxurious, heart-shaped
Luxurious.
jacuzzi hotel.
I need another drink,
in
man.
Griffin.
How about you?
it's about that time. This natural light is about done. So let's close it out right there. Y'all, you can find us, as always, on the internet. It's PETMpodcast.com. This episode and all our episodes will be up right there. You can reach us at PETM at PETMpodcast.com, and of course on Twitter at PETM Podcasts. A lot of PETM podcasts right there, but it's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah,
once you
that
get it
should
all.
be. Just Google it on the Facebook or whatever.
Google it on the Facebook.
Google it on the Facebook.
There you go. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Andrew Sherwin. That's at pregame ENG.
And it's good talking with y'all every week, and we'll talk to you next time.
We really appreciate y'all talking to